This is CBN NewsWatch.
And it is Tuesday, April 28, 2020. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, reopening America. President Donald Trump keeps up his push for governors to start opening their states back up. But some governors say the battle against the coronavirus is far from over. The Centers for Disease Control releases new symptoms of COVID-19, while new research warns the virus may be coming back every year. We're going to talk to our medical reporter, Lori Johnson, about those stories and more. Could the coronavirus actually undermine America's military standing in the world? We're going to hear why that could happen and why one pastor who had the virus and was told he had a 1% chance to live now says he's alive because of Jesus. All those stories and more are ahead in this edition of CBN NewsWatch. I want to begin this half hour with President Donald Trump continuing to push the nation's governors into reopening their states, especially schools. And more are beginning to do just that. As governors begin opening up states, people are slowly coming out to restaurants and bowling alleys and even packing airplanes. And while it could signal the beginning of the end, harder hit states say the battle is far from over. Dale Hurd is on the story.
America is slowly opening for business. Customers returning to some restaurants in Georgia and Tennessee. Texas will follow suit this Friday, and manufacturing and construction will resume next week in Ohio. President Trump is urging governors to also get going on opening schools.
Not a long way to go in the school system right now for this season, for this year. But I think you'll see a lot of schools open up, even if it's for a very short period of time.
Dr. Charles Atlas at the Hoover Institution told CBN's Faith Nation that because we know more about the virus now, more states can open back up.
What we know is that the risk of dying is extremely low, far lower than what was originally thought. And it's very targeted to certain groups.
Some Americans are still willing to take risks to fly. This flight from New York to Charlotte was nearly filled and without much social distancing. The longer the shutdown continues, the greater the concern a food shortage is coming, with 13 of the nation's meat plants closed and many farmers unable to get their products to market.
We have people downstate who need food. We have farmers upstate who can't sell their product. We have to put those two things together.
In New York, hundreds of volunteers are raising money to buy food from farmers and ship it to others.
We're able to buy food from farmers and simultaneously feed the people in the South Bronx that need that food.
Dale Hurd, CBN News.
And as always, medical reporter Lori Johnson joins us now to talk more about some important questions around the virus. Now, the Centers for Disease Control has released, I'm looking here, 6 new symptoms of COVID-19. They're chills, repeated shaking with chills, muscle pain, headache, sore throat, and a loss of taste or smell. What about these?
Well, so many doctors were reporting additional symptoms besides the ones that we've been talking about for so long. Remember, COVID-19 is a respiratory issue, right. So cough, shortness of breath, and also a fever. Those are the main symptoms. But because there is such limited testing, Ephraim, even still, we know that testing is ramping up every single day. But since folks oftentimes don't have access to a test, the CDC is putting out these additional symptoms because so many people have these symptoms and not the classic ones. Especially, remember how we talked about loss of taste and smell? You and I have both experienced that for different reasons other than COVID, but it's awful.
It is.
And 85% in England, 85% of the patients there are reporting that symptom, and 75% in Iran. And of course, we've heard anecdotal evidence here in the United States, so that's a big one. We do want to point out that these symptoms usually come on between 2 and 14 days after being infected. So what about those first 2 days? You're contagious and you have no symptoms. This is something that we've been seeing. And also wanted to point out that those are the typical symptoms, but the more severe symptoms, these are the symptoms that you need to call 911 emergency, not just shortness of breath, but difficulty breathing. If you're with someone and they're difficult to arouse, you can't get them up off the couch, or if they have like bluish face or lips and a very strong, persistent chest pain, you need to call 911 urgently for those. So these are the new COVID symptoms.
Wow, good information. The virus may also cause sudden strokes in people in their 30s and 40s. Getting this report from CNN. Is this a new major concern?
It really is, and it is a very serious concern because, we learn so much more about this as we go along. And one of the most concerning aspects of this new virus is the way that it causes blood to clot in unusual and disturbing ways. For example, we see in autopsies that there are lots of tiny little blood clots in the lungs. We know that there's a risk of blood clot to the heart, but then also with stroke. A stroke is a blood clot in an artery leading to the brain, and we're seeing young people in their 30s and 40s having serious, even fatal strokes that we normally see in people in their mid-70s. And so what the warning is for people, and we're seeing these people who are going into the hospital in their 30s and 40s with these strokes that are very, very serious, who don't have any other symptoms of COVID-19 or else very mild symptoms. So let's put out the symptoms of stroke because time is of the essence. If you're experiencing a stroke and you get to the hospital in time, they can take that blood clot out and you can be fine. But again, every minute more brain cells die. And after an hour of not being treated, they say that it equates to about 3.6 years being taken off of your life as far as your brain capacity diminishing. So try to get to the hospital within 6 or 24 hours. Again, the symptoms of a stroke are FAST, because remember, fast, you have to act fast. Face drooping is one of the main one. Arm weakness, speech difficulty, another big one, and then T means time to call 911. Right. So if you're alone and all of a sudden you feel like your arm is weak, look in the mirror, and if your face is drooping, and then also try to say something out loud. This is if you're alone, or of course with someone else. Try to say the Pledge of Allegiance. If you can't get it out, call 911.
Absolutely. Wow. A new report from China says that the virus probably will not go away, but keep coming back every year. This, I know, is troubling to people to hear. What are the implications of that?
Right. I'm sorry. I wish normally I come on here and I have can mix up good news and bad news. This is also not so great. COVID-19, unlike SARS, has very mild symptoms, so that's good. SARS is the cousin of COVID-19. The thing about SARS is you could really easily recognize someone who had it. And we see this with other really serious diseases, epidemics, pandemics like Ebola, where you know if someone has that. But with COVID-19, we see that so many people are asymptomatic, and that might aid in the fact that it could circulate in and out and around the globe all the time. We see right now in the southern hemisphere, where it's winter there now, a rise in COVID cases. So experts are saying don't be surprised if instead of calling it cold and flu season from now on, it's going to be cold, flu, and COVID season. So boy, do we need that vaccine.
I tell you, thank you so much, Lori. Much appreciate it.
My pleasure.
For thousands of COVID-19 and other hospital patients, nurses play a major role in their recovery. With safety concerns limiting physical contact with family members, those hospital heroes are now playing an even bigger role. Heather Sells has their stories.
When people go in the hospital, they're by themselves. Our patient that we just let out, he was up there for 20 days without seeing anyone.
Shelby Roberts' COVID unit at her Alabama hospital is always full. A new normal that she describes as trial by fire, and she's not alone. In Virginia, Dr. Jamie Holland, a nurse educator, says she's getting calls from former students at all hours about the strain.
The words that I'm hearing are, "This is awful. This is very distressing. This isn't okay."
A major stress for nurses, personal protective equipment, or PPE. Protocols are constantly changing, and they worry about getting it right.
Now you're putting yourself, not just yourself at risk, but you're putting your family at risk. You're putting your coworkers at risk. You're putting your children at risk.
For some, they're isolating themselves, living in campers and tents to avoid contact with family. On the job, they're trying to support patients emotionally who can't receive visitors. Chelsea McLaughlin is a first-year nurse in Virginia.
That I should, be sure that they're okay, talk to them as if, they were my own family member, try to get their real feelings out.
And part of the job right now is being there for patients who are dying without family. For one patient, Shelby Roberts put her own phone in a plastic bag and got 6 family members on the line.
Just held it up to her ear, and they said their goodbyes, and they prayed with her, and then we all sang Amazing Grace, and I held her hand. We put on the gospel music.
Roberts and other nurses say these are painful yet rewarding moments, and while it can provide family members a final goodbye, this COVID-19 separation can also lead to lingering issues.
We are not only robbed of a loved one, but we're robbed of the ability to gather together and honor them.
According to Regent Professor and licensed professional counselor Danny Holland, this makes it harder to bring closure after death and can lead to guilt. What can be important is understanding that a loved one is just that, loved.
Dying alone doesn't mean dying unloved. It simply means the absence of the loved one being with us in that moment of death.
For many patients and nurses, music is a huge comfort. In Arkansas, nurse Michael Stramiello goes into patients' rooms during work breaks to play worship music or other requests. For McLaughlin, her personal favorite is Waymaker, and she's playing it a lot these days. And she has a message for her patients' families. Please call.
We might not have time to talk to you right then, but we will call you back. We will talk to you. If we can, we will take the phone into the patient. We will let you talk to them. Please call.
Nurses are trained to bring patients and their families together. It looks different right now, and it's not easy, but most would agree it's worth fighting for. Heather Sells, CBN News.
The likely Democratic presidential nominee, Joe Biden, is offering his own plan for dealing with the coronavirus while criticizing the Trump administration's actions. Biden told Politico he wants far more spending to deal with COVID-19. He says one of the ways out of this economic crisis is through a $1 trillion infrastructure program to create new American jobs, along with environmental programs and massive aid for state and local governments. The former vice president has been quiet, however, about claims from a former staffer named Tara Reid, who has publicly accused him of sexual assault back in 1993. A former neighbor has supported Reid's claims, that is according to Business Insider. Major media outlets so far have not asked the former vice president about the alleged assault. When Fox News asked the Biden campaign about the charge, it pointed to a previous statement which said this absolutely did not happen. Coming up, could the coronavirus undermine America's military standing in the world to the point where we're no longer a world superpower? It seems almost unbelievable, but we're going to hear why it could be possible when we come back.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5, Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Get the top political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
Could the coronavirus mean America will no longer be a world superpower? Seems unimaginable, but some experts are warning it could happen in the next few years. CBN News' national security correspondent Eric Phillips explains how our enemies are taking advantage of the pandemic to weaken U.S. power around the world.
We saw how quickly this illness can spread during the USS Theodore Roosevelt saga, but one military expert tells me it's important to take a look at the big picture and really assess what happens after this current crisis is over. He says we have to do everything we can to prevent what he calls the slow erosion of our military superiority.
We're going to have a pivotal moment whether the United States is going to reclaim or relinquish our military superiority in the next 2 to 5 years.
Bradley Bowman studies U.S. defense strategy and policy. He fears the American military is in danger of being replaced as the world superpower.
There are areas where the Chinese or Russian military have capabilities that are more advanced than ours, and it pains me to say that.
Bowman says for years, updating equipment took a backseat to the war on terror. He says only in the past few years has a focus been put toward research and development. The results of that work will be ready to implement in the next few years unless the COVID-19 strained economy puts it on the back burner.
And so what that means is we will have done all this research and development efforts and got all these systems ready to field to our troops who desperately need them, and then we're not going to be able to afford to provide them. And I fear what that could mean. I fear this gravely, a historic kind of end, if you will, to U.S. military superiority.
Meanwhile, Bowman warns our adversaries are consistently looking for weakness. He points to Russia, that even in the middle of a pandemic, is still sending nuclear-equipped bombers to test our defenses in Alaska.
Their assessment of our strength is that we are getting, relative to them, weaker and weaker, and that's going to invite the very thing that we are designed to avoid.
While Bowman says this is an urgent situation, he maintains that right now the U.S. retains sufficient combat power to protect the American people and our interests. But he says we'll have to act if we want to keep it that way. And COVID-19 certainly makes that more challenging. Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Still ahead, the internet is full of false information about the coronavirus, including a blame game about who is responsible for the outbreak. And one target of false accusation, the Jewish people. We're going to bring you the story when we come back. Stay with us.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Happily, Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Watch Christian World News, Saturday at 5 p.m. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, You wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
As the world battles the coronavirus outbreak, disinformation about the illness is thriving on the internet, including a dangerous blame game. And a number of people are pointing the finger at the primary scapegoat in history, the Jewish people. Chris Mitchell brings us the story.
After the coronavirus began to spread around the world, the blaming of Jews for the epidemic quickly followed.
Of course, the usual suspects, the Iranian regime, which has been so horrific vis-a-vis its own people. They still have their ongoing flights with Beijing. They've exported corona throughout the Gulf, a disaster. Who do you blame? You blame the Jews, you blame the United States of America.
The finger-pointing included Turkey, as one politician wrote, "Though we do not have certain evidence, this virus serves Zionism's goals of decreasing the number of people and preventing it from increasing. Zionism is a 5,000-year-old bacteria that has caused the suffering of people." Rabbi Cooper says this is nothing really new, although now it's the world's newest virus meeting the world's oldest hatred.
Historically, going back to the medieval times, actually 1,000 years ago, when Jews were first falsely accused of killing Christian children around Passover and baking matzah, a horrible screed that led to death and destruction. Then the Black Plague. The bottom line is that throughout the millennia, whenever there's a virus like this or a pandemic, scapegoating is right at the top of the list, especially before modern times came about. And the Jewish people have always suffered.
In the 21st century, social media carries the anti-Semitic message. This tweet said, "A lot of people are waking up to the fact that the coronavirus is a Jew organized crime created hoax intended to cover up Jew organized crime being carried out."
On the face of it, it's ludicrous, but we know that we're all fighting the second pandemic, and that's the pandemic of fear.
Cooper says the Simon Wiesenthal Center fights back by trying to degrade the ability of these anti-Semitic groups to spread their messages and working with the FBI and the State Department.
I give terrific support for our State Department, for Secretary Pompeo, for turning the screws even more on the Iranian regime. This is not about hurting the Iranian people.
Cooper says it's important to face the coronavirus crisis redemptively.
Be decent, caring people, take care of your families, and always think of the less fortunate that are around us. And who would have thought a month ago that we would all be thinking about, not based on how much income you have, but what kind of situation you're in medically and also spiritually. So the challenge ahead for all of us is this could be a time to bring people closer together, even though we're physically isolated from each other.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
And still ahead, doctors diagnosed him with the coronavirus and told him he only had a 1% chance of living. But a Georgia pastor is actually alive today, and he says it's because of Jesus. We're going to hear from him when we come back.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
From Washington, D.C., uncompromising stories, interviews, and analysis from veteran journalists David Brody.
Escalating fight.
Jenna Browder.
Chose his words carefully.
Ben Kennedy.
Plan to join him.
And Amber Strong.
For impeachment grows a little bit louder.
Bringing you the political news that matters.
We get out and tell the story of the progress that we're making in this country.
Watch Faith Nation. weeknights at 6 on the CBN News Channel.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
As the nations rage, you can stand with Israel.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
Call 1-800-700-7000 and get to life.
This is our nature as a country.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
Support Israel in their time of need. Get to Life, now available on DVD. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
And I wish that other people throughout the world could see this side of Israel.
I am Regent's first ROTC graduate student.
Check out the CBN News Daily Rundown podcast each weekday with me, Caitlin Burke. Click on the show tab at cbnnews.com where you can listen and subscribe.
Pastor Robert Burt of Georgia's Danielsville Baptist Church was near death from the coronavirus a few weeks ago. On life support, doctors telling him he only had a 1% chance of living. So bad, though, he didn't even know who he was or why he was in the hospital. But on April 10th, he made his way home, and he tells CBN's The Prayer Link it's because of Jesus.
I've seen the worst of the worst. And, you know, the Lord let me walk through hell. And he was with me. Nobody touched me. And I told my wife, I said, you know, I'm glad I'm a Christian. And I'm glad I'm where I'm at with God, because there's no way I could live in darkness like that. And people who say there's no God, I'm living proof of it. Well, my faith right now with Jesus is a lot stronger. Me being here, that's all because of Jesus Christ and all the prayers.
Mm-hmm. You can hear the pastor's full story this evening at 6:30 Eastern on the Prayer Link on the CBN News Channel. Time now for your Tuesday Tweetable, and I'm trusting this message will be a blessing to you and hoping you will post, tag, tweet, and share it with those in your circle. Rest in this moment. Be still in this moment. Be silent in this moment. God is gently speaking, and you will only hear him when you turn down the noise. The quieter you are, the easier it is for you to hear him. With that word, make today a terrific Tuesday. That will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel at any time. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us at the address on your screen, newswatch@cbn.com. And, of course, you can reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Certainly hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make it a terrific Tuesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Goodbye. God bless.